been a minute, hasn't it? I haven't posted for a while, but from now on, I will be posting a lot. We've got a lot of cars coming up, so stay tuned. But this week we have the new 2 Series, more specifically the 230i, which sits kind of middle way in the range between the 220, the 240, but the M2 will be added in a couple of weeks. So at the moment, middle of the range. Now, when the photos were leaked for this online, I, like a lot of the internet, thought it looked pretty shit. I'm not gonna lie to you, I thought it looked pretty shit. But having spent some time with this car over the last few days, I am converted. I actually think it looks great. These proportions especially do it a world of good. You got this nice long snout, runs along really smooth. You got these big rear haunches, that Spider doesn't come with it. These guards here, and then this short stubby boot. I think just overall the profile of the car, it looks really great. My favorite thing about the design though is here, this grille. Now if you excuse me for a second, I'll show you why. Ta-da! They open. So when you put it into sports mode, these open up to just suck more air into the engine. I just think it's pretty cool, just opening and closing these vents. Well, inside, there's no escaping that it's nice and cozy, but it's a BMW, so it's built well. Everything feels really solid. You've got this iDrive system, which is really easy to use. It's intuitive. You've got your little dial here to control it as well if you don't want to use a touch screen. The driving position is really good too. You sit right down low. You've got this big chunky steering wheel. That said though, this is as low as the seat can go. So if you're any taller than kind of 6 foot, you're going to struggle with this sunroof as well. Apart from that though, from the driver's perspective, in my case anyway, it's great. It's a BMW. It's an awesome driving position. Everything's really solid. What more could you ask for? But in terms of practicality, now that's the other thing. Well, in terms of storage, you've got a big bin here, cup holders and the wireless charging bay there. There's plenty of space in the door storage as well. You can fit a big bottle in there. If you, there we go. Bit more storage as well behind there. But the thing is, that second row, you're not going to fit many people in that second row. Actually, let me demonstrate. All right, so we'll press this. Oh, it's going to slowly move forward. All right, I'm climbing in. Oh, geez, that's going to look great on camera. All right. Now it does the whole slow electric move back, and let's see how much space we've got. All right, so space is tight back here. You can see my head clearly. My knees are either side of the seat, not just either side, they're either side of the seat. You'll fit an adult back here for a short trip, but no long periods of time, to be honest. This is more or less just another storage space, which adds to the 390 litres that is in the boot. And I kind of wonder why brands do this. Another car that just off the top of my head springs to mind is the Mustang. If you're not going to actually fit full-size humans back here, what else can they do with this space? Can they do something different? I don't know. Let me know in the comments. But yeah, I wouldn't want to sit back here for any long period of time. A short trip, yeah, okay, I think it'd actually be fine. But I'm not sitting back here for long. Now I have to actually try and get out of this. So bear with me. So in Australia, this will cost you $70,990. That's before on-road costs. So you're probably looking at closer to 80. I've heard a lot of good things about this car. It's got the smaller engine, so it's lighter over the nose. It's only rear-wheel drive, with the 240 is all-wheel drive, so it's a bit of an engaging, fun drive. But what's it like to live with when you're not thrashing it around when no one's around? Not that I condone those sorts of things, of course, but what's it like to live with? So more often than not on weekends, I'm driving and testing cars, and every so often, myself and my partner will go to our favourite little bakery in Berrima and have a donut and a coffee and whatnot. And I can actually see this car doing more of that than using the rear-wheel drive and hanging the arse out and, you know, throwing through corners. I can see this being a weekend cruiser, you and your partner going for a nice little trip somewhere to enjoy the day or the weekend. So with that being said, let's go grab a donut. Why not? And it's another hot one too, so I think I'm going to need these today. Alright, so some basics on this. It's powered by a 2-litre 4-cylinder turbo petrol engine, and that means it's good for about 5.6 seconds to 100. It's got 190 kilowatt, 400 newton meters of power. Is that enough power? We'll find out together. But it is worth noting that it's left for dust by the M240i and the eventual M2, obviously, when it arrives. But just on that, it's also worth noting that the 240i is $20,000 more expensive. That's a lot of money, and this is a fair bit of car from what I've seen so far. So my thoughts on the ride so far? Well, it's a bit firm. It's not overly firm, it's not uncomfortable. Maybe it's just been the roads I've been on, so we'll talk about that a bit later as well. But another thing is these seats. These seats are really well bolstered, like really well bolstered. I'll be the first to admit that I'm not the most slender person in the world, but these are hugging me. It's quite tight. They are quite tight. So we're about halfway through our drive right now, and the ride's really growing on me. It is firm, but it's actually quite comfortable. I think you could live with this day to day. I'm not sure. One thing that's starting to get on my nerves a bit. Can you hear the amount of road noise that's in here? I'm not sure if it's getting picked up through the microphone, but there's a fair amount. I mean, this is a BMW. This should not have much road noise at all. It should be nice and quiet in here and comfortable and luxurious, and it is, two of those three things. But I just would have expected it to be a little bit more quiet in here for what it is. So back to the power equation now. Alright, so look, the reality is there's more than enough power for everyday driving. Whatever you're going to need, there's plenty of power on tap. And I hope this makes sense to people, but I still wish there was a bit more power in this car. It's to say, I wish there was a manual transmission as well. And, I wish you didn't have to have all-wheel drive to get the bigger engine. I think what I'm saying is, I want the M2, but for a lot less money, you can be happy with this. I think this is a really nice, fun car. It kind of reminds me of the Toyota 86, to be honest. Just a nice, finished, presented, maybe Toyota 86. Which actually brings me to another thing. Make sure you subscribe and write a comment and let me know where we should take the 86, because we've got that in 2 weeks. So if you're keen to see that review or video, subscribe and let us know where we should take it. We're in New South Wales, so we can take it around New South Wales somewhere. What are some of the best driving roads? You might also be interested to see what sort of economy we're getting. So currently, cruising along like this, we've got adaptive cruise on. We're on a downhill slope now, so it's saying at this exact moment we're using 3 litres per 100. On average, we've been using about 6 to 7 for this trip. But across the life of this press car, which can often get thrashed, to be completely honest, like sometimes they do get driven hard. The average across the lifetime of this car is 8.7 litres, and when you factor in the fact that it has been driven probably more aggressively than you're going to drive the car if you own it, that's not a bad number. I think realistically that's going to come down the more you do these sorts of trips. Drive around the city a bit and not just thrash the living shit out of it. Now, another reason I think this will be a good little city car is just purely the visibility. You've got a big back window despite the sporty kind of slopey roof on the car. There's just visibility all around. You've got a big C-pillar, not big, but you've got a chunky C-pillar, but it doesn't really block anything, and the back windows kind of slot into it as well to make visibility a bit better. Around the city, you're laughing because you're not going to be stressed if there's lots of cars around, or reversing into a tight car spot. It's going to be a cinch. It's going to be really easy because you can just see everything. so we're here, and because some idiot didn't check to see if the bakery was open, we have custard tarts instead, but it's all good.
All right, I'm joining you a few days on now from when that last video was taken, mainly because my camera died. But as with everything, there's silver linings. So we spoke about the practicality of this car. We didn't really talk about the boot. I told you there was 390 litres, but I didn't show you how accessible the space was. So let's do that. Now to demonstrate, I have bought a pretty big suitcase. So it fits in sideways and it fits in lengthways. So that's all right. You're probably not going to fit another one in like that, but you'd be able to get another smaller suitcase or an overnight bag. You'd probably actually stack another suitcase, smaller suitcase on top there and have some overnight bags. So in terms of usable space, you can use the majority of this 390 litres, which is pretty good. Now, the other silver lining is that I've had a bit of time to reflect since filming that last video. And also we've taken it on a bit more sporty driving. We've hit some bendy stuff and this is a whole bunch of fun. It reminds me a bit like the 86, but with a bit more power. Now, would I buy this over the 240i X-Drive? I think I would. 20 grand is a lot of money. And with that said, you're still getting a lot of car and a lot of fun for the money that you're spending. So I think this is where my money would go. Obviously, the M2 is a completely different beast. If I had the money, I'd probably go the M2, but I'll wait and see until we drive that because this could still be the pick. You never know. So there you have it, the 230i. Let us know in the comments whether you'd have this or the 240i. If you like the design, what you don't like about it. We're keen to hear. Again, we've got lots of cars coming up with the 86 that we just spoke about. So make sure you subscribe and yeah, follow along.